and the district fine arts curriculum coordinator asked, "Could we change your unit on Islamic art with art from the Middle East? Because we really shouldn't be teaching religion. We should be teaching art." I came back at them and said, "You didn't have a problem with my unit on early Christian artwork." So they let me keep Islamic art. I'm Sarah, and I'm reading the testimony of Sally, a high school art teacher who's been censored and silenced by her school district in an effort to increase access to learning, promote cultural awareness, and support positive communal change. I moved to Censorville 8 years ago, and I've been teaching in the same district ever since, and I started at Censorville High School. Everything was awesome. I had a great team. I really liked my job. I really liked my kids. And then, Trump got elected and allowed everybody to be hateful, and that's when the madness started. I guess my first incident with all of this was when COVID happened. I've taught AP art history, and I always felt like I was allowed to say to my students, the majority of our art history textbooks are white, and they have a Eurocentric viewpoint. I was very open with my students. I never had any issues with anything. And then COVID happened, and I had my first class of online students. I had 60 students in an online class for Art 1. And so that's when the first issue happened. I'd always gotten students to do socially engaged art projects benefiting a cause. One year it was Save the Ocean, and you had to make ocean animals out of recycled materials. The whole goal was to show them how art can be impactful and do a good thing and whatnot. During the first year of COVID online teaching, one of the activities was to make an award for someone in your community who's a positive change maker. We talked about you could build a sculpture that could be a statue. You could design a neat graphic for a certificate. You could make a medal. I found this video and I watched it before I showed them. And it was saying, you might think you're just one measly little voice, that you're just a high school student, but let's look at some examples of other movements where it was just one person who, it gave examples from a variety of viewpoints of you too can make a stand and all of this stuff. But long story short, apparently this mother was listening in on her kids' classes, and instead of asking me about the video, instead of asking my principal or anyone at all, she went to social media. She posted it in the Facebook group, complaining that I showed the video saying that even you can start a movement, your voice matters. So she was mad about that video. I believe she was upset that the video encouraged protesting and joining forces with like-minded others. I guess she thought it encouraged rioting, and that was around the point when all of the conservative people were obsessed with, look at all these people making such a mess and vandalizing property and yada, yada, yada. And so she thought I was promoting unpeaceful protests or whatever because it said in the video, you can band with like-minded people and fight for something that you believe in. When she posted her comment about, look at what my son's art teacher is doing, someone commented, clearly another teacher pushing their communist agenda. A teacher who worked with me and was part of that Facebook group reached out and said, hey, I don't know which one of you 5 art teachers did this, but they're talking about you online. And I was like, oh my God, it's me. And then I went and looked who the kid was, and he had an award for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I thought, I don't know what the problem is here, but okay. The parent then emailed the area superintendent and said that I was pushing my agenda onto her child because now he had to make an award for, it was ridiculous. And then the area superintendent called the principal. I was advised not to talk to the parent directly. I had to go in and show the principal my video. I had to give my lesson plan to the fine arts director for the district, and then a counselor had to sit in on the next 3 of my online classes. So I'm trying to teach, and the counselor is there hovering over me and watching me. But she was a wonderful counselor, and I'm not gonna lie, she made me feel more comfortable. I had somebody on my side seeing what I was teaching and watching the video going, okay. I felt a little bit more safe with her there, to be honest. At that point, I said to my husband that I wanted him to join this Facebook group because I was fearful of them going over my head without asking me anything. I'd heard horror stories before from other teachers going through crap, and so I just had him join the group. Well, that was the last year at Censorville High School because I was then chosen to move to the district's early college high school. It's an accelerated dual credit high school, and I'm teaching a college credit art history course with them. I was friends with a guy in my old high school, Joe, who hung a Black Lives Matter sign in his classroom. A student took a photo and shared it with his parent, who posted it to Facebook, and then parents complained to the school. The district told him, hey, don't come to work until we figure this out. And he was like, screw that. He went to the news and said, here's what they're doing to me because I'm trying to show my students that they're welcome here and have a space in my classroom. They don't fire teachers. They just ask them to resign very politely because they can't fire you per se for some of those things. What they'll do is say that because you're in the media, you're creating an environment that prohibits learning. And so that's their loophole. We can't fire you because you have a sign in your room. So they say, oh, you're no longer a successful teacher because you're distracting. Of course, teachers have had crosses up in their classrooms ever since I started teaching here without any issues. Our principal did later tell us, if you want to have a cross or your favorite Bible sayings, she said, or if you want to have a Black Lives Matter sign or whatever, you can as long as it's on your desk facing you. It has to be facing you, and it can't be on display. We've got an In God We Trust sign displayed at my new campus. That was delivered to us from a company. That happened over late summer. So back to my teacher friend, Joe, who had the BLM sign up very early in the beginning of last year. My husband, being on that same Facebook group, saw the start of the uproar. He was like, hey, something's happening at Censorville High School again. These parents are mad that this teacher has a Black Lives Matter sign on his wall. I had worked with Joe for years, and these parents were calling him a pedophile on Facebook. I guess there's some sort of thing called Pizzagate. I don't really know what it is, but apparently if you're eating a slice of pizza in your profile picture on Facebook, then it's a secret code that you're a pedophile. And so my teacher friend had a picture of him eating pizza somewhere. The parents started calling him a pedophile. And that got these parents to start trying to find stuff to dig up on other teachers. So I took a screenshot of that and sent it to my friend that worked at Joe's school, and I said, hey, they're calling Joe a pedophile. Is he aware? Is he okay? This is just a heads up. Well, that person shared that photo, and sure enough, it had my husband's little Facebook profile picture bubble. That got shared around, and my husband's profile picture has me in it. Somebody took that screenshot of all these parents being hateful towards the teacher and put on Twitter. We need to blast these parents. They made a list of the parents who were being awful and put it on Twitter. The mom saw it, went directly to HR and said, Sally has a fake Twitter account and is making a hit list of moms, and oh my gosh, we're fearful for our lives. Long story short, I had a big meeting with HR over this whole thing. I had to prove to them that I was in a graduate course the night the fake Twitter account was made. I was sitting in class when this all happened. I gave them screenshots from my and my husband's phones that showed that neither of us were on Twitter. I showed them our screen time. Luckily, one of the ladies in the administration building was in the same class as me and said she was literally in class with me, so she couldn't have done this. HR sat with me for a while and said, aren't you upset at your husband for taking the screenshot and sneakily being in this group? And I responded, you want me to say yes, but absolutely not, because look at what they're doing to us. Clearly, HR, you work for them. This is customer service at its finest. Whatever the parents say goes. They said that they would get back to me because this was an incredibly serious matter. They did not get me to sign a non-disclosure agreement, even though they said they were going to send it. I never heard from them again. HR hasn't contacted me since, and that was last year. There's some pretty nasty things on that Facebook page, such as, oh, so-and-so had books in their personal library in their classroom. And a parent got certified to sub, went into my friend's English classroom at the time, and looked through all the books that were in that teacher's own personal classroom library behind her desk. This parent sub found a book, Milk and Honey, I think, that she didn't like and brought it to the board meeting. This English teacher was a friend who was getting her master's in librarian studies. She almost didn't get the position of being the new librarian over at Censorville High because of that parent complaining about a book that was behind her own desk. A Facebook group that I'm in is a progressive group, and they do have sneaky mole people who follow the conservative group. And they try to warn us, hey, does anyone know this teacher? We want to warn them before, So they're trying to protect us. The other day, a teacher had hand cream on their desk. Its brand name is Gender Bender, and it's geared toward men, but smells good. I think a student took a photo of it and sent it to their parent. The conservative parent group said, should they be allowed to push this on? And I'm like, it's the teacher's hand cream on their desk. The other thing that's happened since then was I was in charge of writing a dual credit art history curriculum for Censorville School District, and the district fine arts curriculum coordinator asked, could we change your unit on Islamic art with art from the Middle East? Because we really shouldn't be teaching religion. We should be teaching art. I came back at them and said, you didn't have a problem with my unit on early Christian artwork, so they let me keep Islamic art. I had to prove that a bunch of college-level textbooks also had sections on Islamic art and that it wouldn't make sense to say Middle East when I'm teaching about Alhambra in Spain, which is Islamic in Spain. I've heard about all of the book challenges. My librarian at my school was the head librarian for the whole district. Parents were parking outside of her house and stalking her, and so she quit for the safety of herself and her kids. The parents were upset with her for letting the librarians go to their state and national librarian conferences because they claimed the speakers there were into critical race theory. People were upset that their taxpayer dollars were sending teachers and librarians to conferences to learn about the woke agenda. I asked, hey, are art teachers going to be allowed to go to conference? And I've been told that we can go to conference, so nothing has changed on Fine Arts End. I did have to log every single book that is in my classroom into a system called BookSource, and any parent can now see any book that's in my room. I had a bunch of really old books about art, and I had to put those away because they don't pop up in the BookSource database. So now we can't even use them as a resource. Those are the little day-to-day things that I find, but I definitely try to watch what I say more in art history and whatnot. That's hard to be really open about, especially because the college-level curriculum that I have to follow says that I have to teach social responsibility. So I'm trying to have discussions, like, why are all the marbles whitewashed when we know that they were all painted? I want to teach the Guerrilla Girls. Why are the women in the Met the naked paintings and not the women artists? I want to teach that stuff, but I'm scared. I'm not going to lie. Students are super aware of all of it, and I'm really proud of a lot of them. There's no rule where I have to censor students' artwork. It's just my content being censored. The students get to choose which artwork they want to make to satisfy their high school art credit, and so I was giving them examples of Emperor Justinian in the Byzantine era, using his position to promote Christianity. So I assigned, make a mosaic that promotes something that you believe in. And I've already got a mosaic of the Black Lives Matter fist coming. I'm trying to give them space to do their thing, but I have to watch how I word it so they can make whatever they want, so they feel like they can speak their truth in their artworks. The theory behind my doctoral work is crip theory, which branches off of queer theory in that it's trying to be more encompassing. So queer theory branched off of gay and lesbian theory and saying, well, now you're still trying to put us in a category of either gay or lesbian. And so let's have queer theory instead. Crip theory is doing the same thing of you're trying to put us in specific boxes of disability. Let's be more open to that. I had to have a meeting with the fine arts director and the lawyer of the district and say, hey, I want to do this study where we look at access to the fine arts curriculum and try to make it more accessible for our students with disabilities, but this is the theory that backs it up. And I used words critical and crip a lot, and then I used the word queer to explain crip. And they said, if you want to do this research, you have to change the title of your research. And in any and all communication with your participants or your students, you cannot use the word crip, critical, crip theory, or critical theory. I have really close ties with the rest of the teachers that teach students with special needs, and they were reaching out to me. I don't have any experience in this. Can you help me with this? The plan was originally to have participant meetings with the teachers and say, hey, let's look at this new theory. Let's look at these different ways of teaching these students. And the district didn't want me using those terms and setting up these meetings with the teachers who teach the students with disabilities. At the last board meeting, we really rallied the troops. Apparently, a bunch of parents came and supported the teachers and were calling out the board for their ties to privately funded companies. So that was really good. And they did have a couple of student speakers who were like, hey, I have a different sexuality than what these people prefer, and I found myself in a book. So for you to take that away is, I appreciate the space to talk with you about what's happening because a lot of us talk in secret. I need therapy, I need somebody to talk to because this just feels crazy. Talking today makes me feel like I'm doing something because so often I feel like I can't do anything about any of this.